Right, so let me introduce all of us to what we call time series analysis. Let me share my screen. Great. I think my screen is being shared now. It's waiting to take over. Waiting for it to share. Right, great. It's being shared at the moment. Let me pick this layout. It looks better for me. Okay. Then in that case, I can pull up this. And so we're going to look at time series analysis. And then from the very basics, I think time complex. I'm looking for the slide, just scroll from here. So time series analysis, basically, um, we are looking at a data that has been collected with timestamp, or a data that has been collected with a time interval. There is a time interval that has been allotted to that particular data. For instance, if you are picking a data and you are picking it, let's say a specific time every, every day or every hour or every minute, it means you have put a timestamp on it. Or if you have picked the data and whatever that you are going to do with that data is based on time or a period or a season, that particular data is a time series data. So time series analysis is you are looking at a data that you are looking at, let's say you are analyzing the data to see how that data is organized, is clustered, or patterns have what has been detected over time. So that's where I gave a small definition here. I say time series is a series of data points in which each data point is associated with a timestamp. Actually, a simple example is the price of a stock in the stock market at different points of time on a given day. Another example is the amount of rainfall in a region at different what is the month of the year. For instance, in Ghana, we have two seasons. We have the major season and we have the minor season. We can rainfall pattern at different places in Ghana here, and then it allows us to be able to plan our agricultural output. For instance, we can also look at uh, like the way sometimes when we give feed to animals and we want to check what is it the unit output of whatever that we are given, then we can put timestamp on it, and then we can say that when we give this kind of feed, this is the resultant effect per minute, per hour, this is the growth rate, and all those things. They are always time things that you measure with time series analysis. So in time series analysis, the basic syntax is use the function called TS, as you can see it around here. We have, and that's what we use for our time series. I'm going to go to RStudio here in a moment from now. And then with this particular TS, the function, what does the argument? This is the function. Whatever that's found inside the function is called an argument. We have the data, which come in the form of a vector. We have the stats, we have the n, and we have the frequency. The most important thing here is the frequency. For instance, if I am taking a data set, maybe I should go to RStudio and then try and put that particular analysis, and then you see. For instance, if I pick a data, it can be annually, okay? It can be monthly, it can be quarterly, and it can be minute basis. So for instance, when I say I have a data point, let me go to RStudio, and that's my time series analysis. So I'm going to come from here, and then I'll just go to this place, and I'll say that, so this is my syntax. I'll just go to place it there. This is the syntax I have there. So the data here is a vector that is containing the data. And then because it is time series, you need to know when the time starts, when it is starting, when it is ending, and then the frequency. So for instance, I can create a vector of, let's say, I can just create a vector right now, and then I'm going to call it TSS. And then I don't really know. And then I'm just going to look at rainfall pattern. So I can just use, what is it, sampling. Rainfall pattern is not good for sampling. I can just use run if, because it's a measurement. So I'll use run if, and let's say I just want to pick, let's say 40 variables. Okay. And I want a minimum rainfall of 30 millimeters. And I want the maximum rainfall of, let's say 150 millimeters. And then that is all. If you run that, I'm going to have my time. So this is going to give me my vector. So if I come here and I now want to run it, I should be able to say that, okay, at that particular function. So if I come, I'm just going to say my TS. That's my, what is it? I'm not trying to convert the data from a vector into a time series data. So I have to put a timestamp on it. So let's say I will now put this function there, and I'll simply come here and say, okay, the first entry or argument is what? The vector, which I call it TSS here. And then I have to indicate the start point, you see, and then the last particular point. Now, if you don't indicate the start point and then the last point, arrow would automatically suggest it for you. So now let me show you something here, and then you look at how it is. So I have, if I am talking about the start point and the end point, that is much more. I can say, okay, I'm looking at it from 1st January 2023. Then it will start from there. I can say 1st February or any date at all. I'll put it there. Once you have used that function TS, which is time series, I don't know what you're talking about. If I put frequency at 12, it picks the data point for every month. It means you are picking the data at every month. If you pick it frequency at 4, it means that you are looking at it quarterly. Now, you know, we have 4 quarters in a year, every 3 months. Now, if you say frequency 6, you pick the data point for every 10 minutes. And then when you pick it at 24 by 6, you are saying that every 10 minutes of a day. This one was every 10 minutes of an hour. But the last one, 24 by 6, means every 10 minutes of the day. And so this is how we're going to look at it. If you peg it at 24, you are talking about every day. You see, you are pegging it daily. And then we'll look at that pretty soon. So I'm going to now. So imagine I have the ordinary data, just like the way I have it here, and then you can see that I've decided to put the timestamp. Look at where I have put the timestamp, and the timestamp, because you are using. Okay, let me put it in RStudio. That way it will be much more understandable. So I have put my time series function here. The argument is first here. The second argument I am going to take, I'm going to put date, but R doesn't know date. So, and the date doesn't come with just one figure. It comes with the year, the month, and then the day. So you have to put it in the form of a vector. So I have to say C here, and I'll simply just put here. So it must take the year first. And so let's say I'm saying 2023, and then in which month is that? I'm looking at let me come here and show you something. You see that we are separating everything by just comma. We are not putting it in anything. We are separating everything there by comma. When we are converting it to time series, we separate everything by comma. So let me go back to RStudio, and I'll say that, okay, so 2021, if I put there from 01 would mean that we're talking about January, and then if I put 01 again, it means we're talking about 1st January. So you come out of that. If I come out of that, I'm going to put this, and I'll say frequency. You see that frequency will definitely come because you started with the function TS. I will recognize. So here, the frequency is where we now state. If I put 12 there, it means that what frequency am I saying? It means I am picking the data. If I say 12, it means I'm picking the data of every month. It means that we are picking the data every month. So each data point will be counted as the data that was picked within a month. So let's go back to RStudio and see something. Here we are looking at 40 different data points. And we are picking it at every month. So let me put here chop. Run it and then you see what is going to happen. So that runs properly. Now come and look at how it is. So you see that the data is going to separate the data from 2023 all the way 2024, 2025, and then 2026. You see? So check how the whole thing is going to look like, because we are looking at 40 months in that case, because each particular data point here, each one here, we are picking 40 different data points, and we are saying that the frequency is 12. It means that we are looking at the data was picked every month, monthly. And so divide and we know there are 12 months in a year. So it's going to go from 2023 to 2024, 2025, and then 2026. And that's how it is. It might not finish 2026, all right, but once you put the frequency, it's going to follow that up to. And so check. You can see that it moved from all the way to January. After that, it will go again to December, and then it will come again. Then in that order, you now have your time series data, which is seated here. So here, we could have packed it into a new variable, and we can say our TS underscore data 1. So that's our TS underscore data 1, and then we can pack it into that particular place. So when we finish from that, come to look at it, the next thing that we could have done. So now that we have looked at it into, we have converted it into a time series data, then we can now decide to have a look at it. Now, one of the easiest way to understand time series data is to plot it. So you can just use the function plot, and then that's all. So I can just come here, and then I can now plot. I'll just say plot here, and then what am I? I'm plotting the time series underscore data 1, which is here. And then when you run that, it's going to give you the time series. And look at it. This is 2023, 2023.0, 2023.5. Then it goes all the way up to 2026. The data has been organized. So now you can see that from 2023 to 2023 May, and then from there up to the next month, then you can see how whatever that you were measuring, look at how it was moving. If it were a stock market, then we can begin to look at how the market was moving. We can see that the market at this particular place was a little bit low, goes up a little bit, and then drop down, continue going up, then drop down completely, and then in that order. There are instances you can see in a very straight line, and then you can begin to look at how the market behaves. But this is a typical data that you look at the market behavior, and then it depends on how you peg your data over there. Now we could have gone ahead to say that, okay, let's assume that I can have my second one and say I'll call that one my time series data 2. And then in that case, I'm simply just going to say that I'm going to use this particular function. I'm going to copy this. It's the same thing that I'm going to use, but this time around with a different frequency. I'm just going to copy that, and then I'll come and put it over here. But which particular frequency can we use now? Let's go to our arrow here, and then I'm going to show you something. So let's say we are looking at it quarterly. So if we are looking at it quarterly, let's look at what is going to happen. So the frequency, if we are looking at it quarterly, I'll put here 4. So I'll put there 4. So when you run that, and then you decide to print your this, so look at how it's going to look like. You're going to have your first quarter, your second quarter, your third quarter, and then your fourth quarter. It groups the data for you. This one is always so simple, and then you can see that in the first quarter, look at if it were some sales, you are look at the first quarter, your sales, compare that to the second quarter of 2023, then the third quarter of 2023, and the fourth quarter of 2023. then you can look at how the market was behaving. So if you want it, you can as well also plot it, and then you can plot it, and then you say time series uh, underscore data 2, and then we look at that and look at how that is going to look like. So you see how the market is going to look like. And so this one is in the form of like quarterly. So this first part is for the first quarter, and the first quarter would have finished. Then you move to the second quarter, which is 2024, 2026, 2028, 2030, and 2032. Remember, when you make it quarterly, it means you are saying that you have how many data points? There are 40. You are saying that every quarter you pick one. And so there are how many quarters in a year? 4. So you are going to have like it means every year you pick the data 4 times, and there are 40. So it's going to take you 10 years to be able to complete that data. And that's what we have here. And that's why if you check from 2023 to 2032, that's what you are likely you are going to get what is a 10 years interval. So that's how you're going to analyze the data, and you can look at it from here. And so you can begin to see that, okay, which particular period were you having maybe some kind of behavior. And so you can look at it like this. So in time series data, the most important thing is we have to make sure that we have our timestamps properly put there. There are also instances you pick your data and then there might not be timestamps on it. So you have to report the timestamp. Sometimes some people pick the data and the timestamp is not there. Even if the timestamp is there, and let's say the data, the one who might have given you the data, or if you have picked the data yourself, you should know how you were picking the data. If there were a market value and then you were measuring how the market is behaving, you were going there every day. That's a daily one. That's daily. So in that case, we would have just, we would have come here. Let me just copy this. And then I will simply just going to move this a little bit. And then I'll come here, just paste it. And then this will be my time series data 3. And then I'm going to come here and put the 24. So it means that every 24 hours, we're picking the data. So come and print time series data 3 and look at how that looks like. It's going to organize the data into daily. And then you notice that that way, if we are picking it within, or every day, it means that data will not, and there are only 40 data points. It will just be around 2 months. It will not even finish 2 months, and you have finished picking all the data. This one, you could as well also plot it, and then you can have a look at it. The most important thing I want us to pay attention here is the timestamp you put on it. Whether it is daily, it is quarterly, it is per minute. For instance, if you're working on, let's say, cancer data, you want to look at the group of the cancer cells. You measure that in minutes. If you want to, you are trying to look at the effect of a drug on someone. So when you give the drug to the person, you begin to measure the person's reaction, maybe let's say every 5 minutes, and see how the person is reacting. Every 5 minutes you measure, every 5 minutes you record, every 5 minutes you record. So, or every 10 minutes you record. So when you finish, you have to put your timestamp on it, that the data was collected every 10 minutes, so that you can check to see that from what time was you having much reaction, what time the reaction was low, and then what time was it. Then some also put this on market data, where you can have that, and then you'll be able to make sure that you measure your market performance at every single small time. You can also apply this in water nutrition. You are giving people some feed, and then you are measuring their weight gain over time. So maybe every day you come to measure their weight, or every 3 days you measure the weight, and then you are giving them the same food. Like those who are doing stress analysis, you want to look at people and their workplaces, and then how they are able to handle stress. So maybe you consider other parameters. I'm going to get to an analysis where I'll show you how to account for confounding factors and covariance. But for now, let's just assume that everything is all right. So you keep on, whilst the lecturer is lecturing every day, then you come and measure his weight at the end of the day. While the police officer works, you also come and measure his weight. So you measure their weight over time, and you look at the amount of change that might have occurred over time. So if it is time series, you could actually do that. So time series analysis is very important. Rainfall pattern. You see, if we had assumed that this was a rainfall pattern, then maybe let's say if it was rainfall pattern and we're looking at it, let's say monthly, like the one that we have here. If I had plotted, let me plot that one again and you see. So, and we're looking at it yearly, then we can say that in 2024, relatively, we had, much rains as compared to other places. Then you just be looking at some of these lows and highs and whatsoever. Because this is a simulated data, that's why you are seeing it so quite zigzag like that. If it were real-time data, you notice that there's a point the rainfall pattern will peak, and there's a point the rainfall pattern will come down. You're not going to get it this way. And then, but this is just an example to let you know how it works. Here we can say that the rainfall pattern started, coming down. Then it came down. Then it went up so steeply up to this point. Then it started dropping down again up to this. Then it went up again. Then in that order. So in this pattern, we can say that we can actually find a specific pattern of the rainfall in that particular year or throughout the 2 years that you are measuring. So this is how we do time series analysis. The timestamps are very important. Now, these are some few basic things that I want you to pay attention. In time series analysis, when you say today, just put today and then run this function. What are you going to get? It's going to give you today's date. Today is 13th October. As you can see, it is written here. What about if you want to know what is the time now? If I want to know the time now, I'll just say now and then run it. And then it's going to tell me the time now is 10:47, 54 seconds GMT. It will even tell you the geographical location in which you are, GMT. We are in the green something meridian. So, and then the date will also be there. You can actually also use the date function itself, and it's going to give you, it will tell you specifically that today is Friday, October 13th, and then it will give you the entire thing. So sometimes you could also say as date time of today. You run this particular function, and what are you going to get? It's going to tell you that this is the general time zone in which you are. But to tell you that we are on the 13th of October on this particular time zone. And then that's how it is. So these are the preliminaries. What about, like, you can also create your date with different formats. Sometimes, if you were having your data, like I keep saying, you wanted to analyze, you need to simulate the data first. Analyze the simulated data, and before you can go ahead to work with the real data. So let's assume that I was going to simulate the data, and then you need to simulate or come out with a timestamp or what a different date. These are the ways through which we can create that. We are creating different data of different. So when you use this function called YMD, it means I want the year to come first before the month and then the date. And so I'll put the date, the date inside there. And when you run that, it's going to create it just the way you want it. So maybe I could also want the month, the day, and then the year. If you do that, it's going to create it accordingly. Then the other one to day, month, and the year, it will also create it accordingly. This is how we are able to use this function, which comes with a package called the Lubridate. Let me see if that particular function, that package has been loaded. Lubridate, has been loaded. That is why all these functions are working. If it wasn't loaded, it will not. So you can also write your date just the way it is here. But once you put this function YMD, R knows that you are looking at year, month, and then day. So when you run that, it's going to print it accordingly for you. You see that it's separated, obviously, into the year, followed by the month, and then the day. Then you can also do this one, year, month, and date, and then you also put it this way. Whichever way you put it, R knows that the first 4 digits will stand for whatever that is here. If you put year here, year takes 4 digits. month takes 2 digits, and then day takes 2 digits. So in all, you are going to have 4 digits inside here. Whichever 4 digits you put there, once you put this function there, R is going to create a date according to that particular function. So if I run this, so you see that it tells me that in the year 5032, on the 12th, or on December 3rd, or 3rd, or March 12th, then in that order, depending on how you fix here. You are looking at year, month, so it will be 5032. The month is December 3rd, and then that is it. So these are the different ways that you can create your data. You can also create your date and time at the same time. And then here we use the function ymd to be able to do that. Once you have your lubricate function loaded, you have no problem. And so you see that I can create with any time at all. So I'm creating the date with the time. I am doing all these things because I'm going to simulate the data at the end, and you will see how we can apply that data. Supposing I was going to work with, let's say, cancer data. I want to measure the growth of cancer cells over time. And so the data has been given to me already, and it is measured in time differences or of different days. So day 1, so it is measured. So you may want to examine or analyze the data based on daily. So for the 60 days that the person has been picking the data, he's been picking it every 10 minutes for 60 days. So you can analyze it on hourly basis, analyze it on daily basis, and then before you can analyze it on weekly or whatsoever. So to do that, you have to make sure that time is added, because you can say that, okay, every 10 minutes, this is the growth rate of the cancer cells. And that's how it works. When you also go to flight, if you want to also check flight, aeroplane flight, they deal with exact time. If one is supposed to take off at exactly 9, it should take off at 9, because another one may be coming to also land by 9:15. And then the airport has to be cleared. So time is very important. You have to also analyze that to be able to maybe build a model to say that, okay, if we don't want to have this kind of conflict of where maybe one plane diverting to another airport because one airport is not free for landing, then this is where time calculation comes in. So let's look at how to create data with different times. So you use this particular function, like you have a year, month, day, and then hour, minute, and seconds function to be able to create it, and then to create your date for you. The same thing that we have here. Then you can also create the date with time zone. This is for Ghana, so it's very important. So we are saying that create this particular date, but we want to use this particular time zone, GMT. So whatever that is there, it will create it with GMT for us. And so it creates it for like GMT, and then which is also there. So you specify the so now let's assume that I want to create some kind of data. So I want to create a particular data set, or simulate a particular data set, and I want to look at the date 2021, let's say 2021 July, all the way to 2021 July something. And then I am saying that I want to do this by 1. Let me run it, and then you see what that means. It means I am creating daily, every single day. Okay, daily. So from July 6th all the way to July 25. Okay, so I'm creating daily. So now if I print X, you're going to see that I've created different dates, and you can see that I have 2021 July 6th, 2021 July 7th, 2021 July 8th, 2021 July 9th, all the way 2021 July 25. That's what I have done here, and this is how we create that kind of data. So you use as dates function, and then you specify the date, put that in inverted commas. Date is taken as a string, so I recognize the date as a string, so it has to be in inverted commas. Then you have comma, use as date again, also specify, so from where are you starting to where you are ending, and then you check how you are separating. If it says separated by 1, it means daily. If it's separated by 2, it means every 2 days. That one is just count. If you say by 7, it means every week. So it will start counting every week, then in that order. So if you want whichever number you put here, that's how you're going to separate it. And that's how it works. So if I do that, for instance, let me run the second line, and then you see what I've done there. So if you print that, you see that the date will be a little bit different from the first one. And so you can see that we are just looking at, we are simulating the date from July 6th, 2021 to July 25, and we are saying by 7. So it means that we are looking at the date in 7 days interval. So you see July 6th plus 7 will give you July 13th, plus another 7 will give you July 20th. But it has not finished with 25. It won't finish. If the last days are not up to the interval that you are creating the date, it's going to ignore it. R is going to ignore it. So that is why in data analysis, it's not just the code. You yourself will have to examine the data. And that's why we always put structure, summary, for you to be able to know the number of observations you have, number of variables, to be able to simulate the data accordingly, which is very important. Pay attention to this. And so that's how we are going to do that. There are also instances we can simulate the data excluding weekends. It's not all the time that people simulate a data or people pick data every day, Saturday and Sunday, or Fridays. In some places like Iran and Co., Friday is a weekend. Sunday is the work. So you simulate the data, you can exclude some days which you know are not part of the working days. So if you want to do that, it's the same thing you do on top here, but in that case, let me run this. So I run that particular function, that runs properly. But if I come here, the same variable called x is the same variable that I have here, but I'm now going to say that x go into that particular vector. You see that when you put a square bracket, there's a square bracket from the beginning here all the way up to the end here. So when you put a square bracket, it means that you are going to, because it's a vector you have created, you are going to index it. You are using the square bracket to use index numbers to isolate some things out. So what are you saying? You are saying that weekdays of x, but when you put exclamation mark against anything, it means negative. So here you are saying that not weekdays of the vector x, of this vector x you have already created, which is a member, which is found. This is percentage in, percentage means member or found in another, found in this particular vector here. So you are saying that you are going to check here and see whichever date that coincides with Saturday and then Sunday, then we are going to exclude those one. That's what we have just done. It's a very simple code and very easy to understand. So if I run that, if I come and run this, you notice that it won't count the Saturdays and Sundays. And remember, we are using the date package called LubelDate. So when you put Sunday and Saturday, it recognizes it, knows what you are talking about. And so here we have it. So now if I print it, you notice that you have July 6th, July 7th, July 8th, July 9th. But you see that July 10th and 11th are not there. It jumped all the way to July 12th. It means July 7th and then July 12th are Saturdays and Sundays. So it won't count it. Then it will jump that, and then it will go all the way to, and then continue from July 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 here. But 17 and 18 are also Saturdays and Sundays again. It will jump it again and continue from 19. That's how we create data without specific days which are there. So I'm going to stop here. Then God willing, tomorrow I will continue with the downstream analysis after you've learned how to be able to simulate the data, and then you are able to gather your data. If you do that, sometimes when you create your data like that, like the first one I said, if you create it, let me just end it around this place, you should be able to change it into a data frame. So I have my data frame here. So if I now print the data frame, you will notice that, you can see the date has been created, which is now in the form of a data frame, and it is seated here beautifully. So now once it's a data frame, I can create other date formats. You see, I can create other date formats. I can create other data format and use cbind to bind it to it. So now I have the date the corresponding data point, another corresponding data point, which will be in a data frame, and then I can do my downstream analysis. I can subset from here, I can go from here, I can plot from this column, from this variable. Then I can look at how each of them are interacting. And I'm going to be doing that in the subsequent video. Stay tuned and then watch out for the next video for you to understand time series analysis in details. Thank you. My name is Biba Bright. If you like what I do, why don't you support me by, always making sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you share it to other people for them to also learn. I'm actually running an online tutorial classes, which is ongoing. If you're interested, you can join, and then we will learn data science together. We've already done a lot, but if you join, I have a way to make sure that you pick up, and then we can go together. My name is here, and my number is always there. +2335571369295. That's my number. You can reach out to me any day. If you have data that you need somebody to analyze for you, I'm around. Thank you, and God bless you.